Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. And this one is going to be a fun one. So strap yourselves in, because we're about to unpack a coaching move that has, well, let's just say it has the college football world buzzing. That's right. We are talking about the return of Rich Rodriguez to West Virginia, back to the place where he really made his name. You know, I've been thinking about this a lot. And it's just a move that's full of intrigue, right? Because on the one hand, you've got this coach who took West Virginia to some of his most dominant seasons, back in the mid-2000s. But then there's the other side of the story, the years since then where things haven't always been smooth sailing.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious to get your take on this. You know, is this a stroke of genius? Is it an act of desperation? Or is this something else entirely?
I think that's the question everybody's asking, right? It is a head-scratcher. I mean, you look at the landscape of college football, and these kinds of moves, these homecoming hires, they're becoming more and more common. And I think it speaks to, you know, a couple of things. Maybe a little bit of nostalgia, this yearning for, those glory days, but also this immense pressure to win and to win now. That exists in college football today.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, because you look at Rich Rodriguez's tenure at West Virginia. Those weren't just good years, those were great years. You know, 3 straight 10-win seasons, 4 Big East titles. I mean, they were a force to be reckoned with.
They were.
And he brought this innovative offensive system, the spread option. That really changed the game.
It was revolutionary at the time. You know, nobody was running that style of offense with the pace and the tempo that Rodriguez brought to it. And it really did force defensive coordinators to completely rethink their approach.
Yeah, you think back to those days, and it was like watching a video game come to life. It was just so fast and so explosive. And it's so much fun to watch. Unless you're in the opposing side.
Unless you're on the other side, yeah.
But here's the thing, right? College football has evolved quite a bit.
Oh, absolutely.
Since those days. And West Virginia is now in the Big 12, which is a completely different beast than the Big East was back then.
Oh, yeah. Completely different animal.
So how do you see that impacting Rodriguez's potential for success this time around?
Well, you know, the Big 12 is a conference known for its offensive firepower. You've got teams like Texas, Oklahoma, you know, they're putting up video game-like numbers every week. And the defenses have had to adapt. They're faster, they're more aggressive, and they're really sophisticated. So for Rodriguez to succeed in this environment, he's going to have to show that he can adapt his system to this new landscape.
Yeah, he can't just rely on what worked 15 years ago. He's got to be able to innovate and adjust.
Exactly.
And I think that's going to be one of the most interesting things to watch. You know, can he make those tweaks? Can he stay ahead of the curve?
Right.
Because the Big 12 is a week in, week out grind.
It is.
And you've got to be able to bring it every single Saturday.
Every Saturday.
Now, you know, you mentioned his time at Arizona, and he did have some success there, taking them to the Fiesta Bowl in 2014.
Yeah, that was a big accomplishment. And you know, the Pac-12 at that time, that was a pretty high-powered offensive conference as well. So it does show that he's capable of adapting and finding success in different environments.
Right, and that's what makes this move so fascinating, right? Because we know he has the potential. We've seen it. But can he tap into that potential in this new chapter at West Virginia?
That's the big question.
And, you know, another big question for me is the players. Because any coach, no matter how good they are, they need the right personnel to execute their system.
Absolutely. You got to have the horses.
So have you seen anything from West Virginia's roster that makes you think they have the pieces in place?
You know, they've got some intriguing young talent, but they're also coming off a pretty rough stretch under Neil Brown. And, you know, it's going to take some time to rebuild that roster and to get the players who really fit Rodriguez's system.
Yeah, I mean, you can't just flip a switch overnight and expect everything to fall into place. It's going to be a process.
It's a process, for sure.
Now, you know, you've also mentioned some controversies that have surrounded Rodriguez throughout his career. I know we don't want to get into specifics, but I'm curious how you think that might play into his return to West Virginia.
You know, it's definitely something that's going to be talked about, and it's something that, you know, the administration and the fans are going to have to address. But I think if Rodriguez can be transparent and communicate effectively about those past issues and show that he's grown and he's learned from his mistakes, I think he has a chance to win back the trust of the community.
Yeah, I mean, everybody deserves a second chance, right?
Yeah.
But you got to be willing to own up to your past and show that you've changed.
You got to show that growth.
And speaking of second chances, you can't ignore his recent stint at Jacksonville State. I mean, he took them from FCS to FBS, won a Conference USA championship. I mean, the guy clearly still knows how to coach.
He does. He does.
So it'll be really interesting to see if he can bring that same level of success back to West Virginia.
Yeah, that's the question, right?
Now, all this talk about Rodriguez makes me think about this bigger trend. In college football these days, these homecoming hires, it seems like every other week, there's another school bringing back a former coach.
It's like a revolving door of familiar faces.
So why do you think we're seeing this trend?
I think it's a couple things. It's definitely partly nostalgia. I think there's this longing for those glory days. Athletic directors and fans, they remember those successful seasons. And I think, well, maybe if we bring back this coach who was there during those good times, maybe we can recapture that magic. And then there's also the pressure to win immediately. In college football, the stakes are so high, the money's so big. And these athletic directors, they're looking for a quick fix. And they think, maybe this homecoming hire is the answer.
Yeah, it's like a shortcut almost. Instead of rebuilding a program from scratch, they're hoping that this coach can just come in and flip a switch.
Yeah.
And bring back the good old days.
Exactly.
But as we've seen, it doesn't always work out that way.
No.
Sometimes the game has passed these coaches by, or the situation is just too different from what it was before.
Right.
So, at the end of the day, what does this all mean for Rich Rodriguez and West Virginia?
I think it's a high-risk, high-reward situation. If Rodriguez can adapt to the modern game, if he can connect with his players, and if he can navigate those off-field challenges, then he has the potential to bring West Virginia back to national prominence. But if he can't make those adjustments, it could be a very short, tumultuous ride.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a fascinating story to follow. And I think that's what makes college football so great. You never know what's going to happen. But one thing's for sure, all eyes are going to be on Morgantown to see if this homecoming is the start of something special or another cautionary tale in the unpredictable world of college football.
And that's what keeps us coming back for more.
So for all of you listening out there, buckle up, because this is going to be a ride. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
It's been a fun one.
And we'll see you next time.
See ya.